Hi there, my name is Ian Willoughby, and this, most excitingly, is the first ever edition of Czech Next Wave. This is a new podcast produced jointly by the Czech Centres Network and Radio Prague International, where the focus is on talented young Czechs. We'll be bringing you regular, insightful interviews with exciting names in various areas of the arts and beyond. And our very first guest is somebody I've admired for some years, the musician Albert Černý. Albert found fame at a young age when his first band, Charlie Straight, won not one but 3 Czech National Anděl Music Awards following the release of their debut LP. When that group broke up, he returned with Lake Malawi, whose biggest moment to date was when they represented the Czech Republic in the Eurovision Song Contest last year, where they finished a very creditable 11th. Enjoy my chat with Albert Černý now, in this, the very first edition of Czech Next Wave. Well, the first thing I'd like to ask you about, Albert, is your own family background. What do your folks do?
My mother is a dentist. My father works for IBM, selling big computer systems to companies like Třinecké železárny.
And you're from Třinec, of course, which is in the very far east, I guess, of the country. Did growing up there in that particular place impact you in some way?
Definitely. I think all of us always feel more motivated to make it somehow.
Because you're from a small town, smallish.
Which is far away from Prague. But the good thing about it is you can listen to Polish radio easily, Slovak TV, Polish TV, and you feel quite international being in a small town like that.
You seem so energetic now. What were you like as a kid?
I think I've always been like that. I think I had a great childhood. My parents always supported me in whatever I was doing. I did karate for a while, and then I did rollerblading in skate parks. So my dad would drive me to competitions, and we even drove to Switzerland twice. They had a really nice skate park with all the, pools and great rails and
I was reading that when you were at grammar school, when your friends were out partying and drinking, you weren't because you were too sensible. That wasn't very rock and roll.
Yeah, I've never been too rock and roll, but I just started drinking beer. I'm 31, and I discovered the taste of Czech beer. It's great. It's amazing.
And how come? What led you to finally try beer at your age?
I don't know, probably my girlfriend's family. Because, when we have a garden party with them, they always have really good cold beer. And it's great, like when you've had a swim or you go for a walk and then you come back and then you... Just a small beer. Really nice.
I'm very used to the joys of Czech beer. I wanted to ask you, how did you first get into music, or what was the first music that grabbed you?
It must have been my father's records, Sting, Phil Collins. We had these cassettes, Tina Turner, Cher, A Hard Day's Night. I was always so fascinated by the accent of George Harrison.
Were there any contemporary bands or contemporary at the time, like let's say in the 90s or early 2000s, that really did it for you?
Hansen, with the hit single Mbap. It was 1998, and I went to Škola v přírodě, which is like a school outing or a trip.
Well, school in the nature, I guess, because you go and you stay in the countryside for a week or something.
You're there for a week, and you usually have a love affair with with a girl in your grade. And I was 9 or 10 or something like that, and there was a singing competition, and I did Mbap by Hansen. It was great.
Your debut album with Charlie Straight, She's a Good Swimmer, came out in 2009. You were just 20 at the time, and it was a really big success instantly. You won 3 Anděl Awards, including LP of the Year. How do you look back on that period?
It was always very gradual. I never felt that the success came as a big kind of surprise, or that we started behaving differently. I only remember the moment when, thanks to these 3 awards, we finally started booking shows that were not in the red. Because earlier, like in the first 3 or 4 years of my first band, which is Charlie Straight, we would always need to borrow money from someone. So, you know, it's good when you know that you're getting at least like 10,000 Czech crowns for a show.
Many people say that the best time of any band is in the beginning when you're on the way up. Was that your experience too?
You know, we used to have a hole in the van we would use where you could see the road, like in the floor of the van. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but
so you progressed to vans without holes.
You know, we would come back from a show at midnight to Třinec, and then we would have to return the van to Ostrava. So we would drive there, you know, return the van, which would be like 1:15 a.m., and then we would drive back to Třinec. We would go to a bakery and have this amazing freshly baked bread at like 2:30 in the morning. So that's one of my favorite memories.
One thing that hits me every time I listen to your music, and also listening to you speaking now, is your incredible English accent. Also, last year when you were in the Eurovision, the British newspaper The Standard even had the headline, "Is Czech Republic entry Lake Malawi singer actually English?" Where does this accent come from?
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know about this Standard thing. Oh, you know, just before we started, I was thinking that my English is kind of slipping away because of all this Corona nonsense. And I've always loved the language. I've always loved how it sounds and how it connects everyone. Especially when I was young, it was so exciting to be able to talk to anyone. Like when I was 14, I went to Malta and I could just speak to anyone. And you know, like now that I'm 31, I don't usually approach random people in the street. But I used to do that when I was younger. I would go to Cambridge on a school trip when I was 15, and I had this recorder, and I would just stop, you know, people in the street, like homeless guys, and we discussed everything. It was so, yeah. So, I mean, for me, English is just a beautiful thing, and that's why I also studied that at university.
I feel no love until it's lost. In 2012 or 2013, Charlie Straight broke up, then you founded Lake Malawi. For you, what are the main differences between the two groups?
Some people say it's sadder, like we make, like the music is melancholic or something. It's hard to say for me, because I don't get in Czech we say odstup.
Distance,
yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. I lack the distance, but it's still me writing songs, music, lyrics, and I try and write good stuff that are usually very personal, you know, that happened to me, and I reflect on that. But I think the main difference is also the context in which these two bands lived or appeared. Yeah, like times are changing, and you know, even the top 50 Spotify or Billboard singles these days, you would get a lot more of Drake and A$AP Rocky, you know, all these trap R&B artists than 10 years ago.
And in your day, there was more guitars around.
Yeah.
From what I can observe, Lake Malawi seem to have an unusually close relationship with their fans. Is that something that you consciously cultivate?
It's never enough. I think taking care and communicating with your fans is something that every artist, especially these days, should spend more time working on, and it's very valuable. Like, the more you listen to them, I think it makes you a better performer, a better artist. Of course, sometimes it's hard to find the right balance, and but we've got so many stories with fans coming to shows from around the world, and like a guy from Berlin who discovered us in Amsterdam during Eurovision. He's been to 4 or 5 shows in here. He just keeps traveling with us. He's great.
You have a very strong look. How important is presentation for you in terms of the clothes you wear, the whole stage setup?
I think it's great when performers look good on stage. I'm against shorts. It's forbidden. If you play with me, don't wear shorts.
You gotta have some standards, right?
Yeah.
She's only a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. She's never home because she plays in a band. I don't know if you understand. She's only a friend of a friend of a friend. I had a dream that you walked through the door.
In May last year, Lake Malawi were the Czech entrant in Eurovision in Tel Aviv with your song Friend of a Friend, which did well. You finished 11th. How did you find the whole Eurovision ride?
It was a year ago, so I have the distance now to think about it. It was great, especially I think it gave us some sort of a confidence boost, especially for me, because I was having some doubts about my career, to be honest. Singing in English here in this country, it's not always what gets you on radio or on primetime TV. The question is, do you need these two? So maybe it's more important that you do something that you believe in, and the whole Eurovision experience gave me more self-esteem in a good way. We went to Amsterdam, London, Madrid, Kiev, we went to Moscow, we performed in Tel Aviv for 6 nights maybe, in front of about 7,000 or 8,000 people. It was great. You get to learn a lot about yourself. For example, the fact that you need to be alone sometimes. You can't always communicate with your bandmates or with press. So I always had this ritual. At around 5, I would go to an empty room, which was the sleeping room. I would just lay myself down on the floor for half an hour. Get a special nap, a power nap.
But when you came on stage, in the videos you look like you're absolutely enjoying it, but that around the world there are, they always talk about hundreds of millions of people watching you. What is going through your mind?
At that point, I'm only enjoying myself, nothing else. Because at that point, you already had 8 sound checks. 3 other sound checks for cameras and, all these rehearsals. So you're just in the zone. It's great when it's kind of automatic. Of course, at first you need to learn, you're starting with the Steadicam, so that's camera number 1. First words going to that. Then you're kind of free to walk for like 3 seconds for the next few words. And then in front of the chorus, like just before the chorus, you need to do this. You need to look in camera number 3 and camera number 4. But it's always great that once it's in you, it becomes automatic and you're just a rock star.
In practical terms, what has it meant for your career? Because on one hand, you are in front of this global audience, this enormous audience. On the other hand, the Eurovision is something that a lot of people who like music essentially just aren't interested in.
It's true. It's Eurovision is strange. It's like a world of its own. You get very loyal fans. The good thing about it, in my opinion, is that it kind of gradually, it seems to me that it gradually becomes more about the music and less about the show or like silly stuff. Because, there's a lot of silly Eurovision stuff. But the reason why I did that with Lake Malawi is that I knew that I can be myself, that we can do our thing.
We kind of touched on this. You've had a lot of success in this country, but is there any point where you kind of hit a ceiling in terms of how far you can go in the Czech Republic? And if you do hit that ceiling, What next?
I'm going to do a Czech song. If it's good enough, I'm going to do a Czech song as Albert Černý, just as a solo artist, and I'm not going to leave Lake Malawi, but I'll leave Lake Malawi for my international dreams and like songs sung in English.
So you're going to have both projects in parallel?
Yeah, I mean, still focusing on Lake Malawi a lot more, and if the Czech song is good, then we can do it as an encore.
Your girlfriend Barbara Podzimkova is one of this country's top models. How did you guys meet? If you can say.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I noticed her on Instagram or somewhere because she was the winner of a lead model look. I can't remember when exactly, but I noticed her and I thought, wow, this girl is so beautiful. I'd like to meet her somehow. But I also realised that she's fairly young, and I thought, when I said it to Jeronim from the band, he was like, "Man, she's still young. She doesn't even want to have a boyfriend. You know, you don't stand a chance." But then we met by accident during a charity run for Tereza Maxová, and then a year and a half passed. We weren't in touch too much, and then I just sent an email, and then we met. And we fell in love.
And you guys look great together, I have to say.
Oh, thank you.
Really. Is the fashion world, which she is involved in, of course, is it something that you can relate to?
Sort of, yes. But it's a lot harsher when you want to be good. Because I take it bad when people criticize me. Mostly, I try and learn, but it's in me somehow. When you say you are terrible, your music's terrible, it's gonna hurt a bit, and then, I'm gonna be fine. But in modeling, it's terrible. You go to a casting. I went to a few castings with Bara. You go to a casting, and, they don't like you because of your nose or your lips or whatever, and you go home. And for that casting, you travel to Paris, you think about it, you try and wear the best clothes possible for the brand to impress them, and it doesn't work because of your genes or the way you were born. And there's not much you can do with that, even if you try. I mean, plastic surgery doesn't really look good.
I completely agree. How was your lockdown? Were you able to be creative, or were you so freaked out about it all that you didn't get anything done?
We enjoyed it really, because it was the first time that we spent more than a week or 2 weeks in one piece. It was for the first time that we could enjoy the flat that we've lived in for a year now. Because before the lockdown, we would always come home for 3 days and leave. Pack up, leave.
So you're playing and she's going off on shoots?
Yeah, exactly. So it was the first time that we bought some plants and, did some...
You felt like you really moved in?
Yeah, exactly.
My final question, you've kind of touched on it already, but what's next for Albert Černý?
I'm taking part in a pretty silly TV show. It's called Tvoje tvář má známý hlas, which in English is probably Your Face Sounds Familiar, which doesn't make sense. That's what it is. The reason I'm doing it is I love a good show, and I think I'm going to get some good songs, so fingers crossed for me.
Albert Černý was preparing for that big TV show, which is now up and running. Check out his photos from it on Instagram when we spoke. And many thanks to him for taking the time out of his very busy schedule. And thanks to you for listening to this, the first ever edition of Czech Next Wave, a joint project of the Czech Centres Network and Radio Prague International. You can subscribe to Czech Next Wave on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And don't forget to rate us if you've got a second. Our music, by the way, is by another talented young Czech, keyboard maestro Andrej Pivec. From me, Ian Willoughby, thank you very much indeed for listening. Join us again next time.